we're back for another Dune video, and this one, I want to focus, so get a little bit more in depth, but I want to focus on two things. What exactly is Dune? What's the plot of it? And why in the hell do certain characters have eyes that are blue and glazed over? Alright, now before we get started, I do plan on making a bunch of Dune videos in the coming weeks, and I'm gonna commit to trying to release one video every single day for the next 2 weeks, but in doing that, could y'all please that are watching this do me a favor? Slap a like on this video, as the like goal is gonna be 420. Also, make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications turned on, so that way you'll get alert every single time I drop a video throughout this. This is a Dune video, but no, not. Now, for those who are unaware, Dune is considered to be the greatest sci-fi novel of pretty much of all time. Almost every single sci-fi movie and book that's been written since Dune came out was written by Frank Herbert, and I believe it was 1965. Every single movie, I keep saying movies because I've seen a lot more movies than I've read of sci-fi books. But it's all been influenced by Dune. Almost everything from costumes to set designs to storylines to even characters' names are all inspired by Dune. Dune, like Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, and Lord of the Rings, Dune is like the sci-fi version of that. And as a child, the only exposure I had to that, because I was born in 1990 and I'm pretty much a 90s kid, was the sci-fi movies that would come on TV from time to time. And sci-fi was my favorite channel as a kid, next to, obviously, Nickelodeon. But I watched it a bunch of times as a kid and didn't understand what the hell it is. It's part of the reason why I got inspired to want to make these videos once that trailer dropped, and I realized how fucking epic this movie's going to be. But, so now that you have a little bit of background on Frank Herbert, the plot surrounds Duke Leto Atreides of House Atreides, and he's the ruler of the oceanic planet Caladan. And he is designed by Padishah Emperor Shaddam, I believe it's the 5th, to manage the harvesting of melange, which is spice, on the planet Arrakis, or Dune. Arrakis is a harsh, inhospitable desert planet and is the only source of melange, or the spice, which is, like I've mentioned before in this video, in my trailer breakdown video, speaking of which is linked down below in the description, is pretty much a quintessential herb and drug. It is extremely rare and a valuable substance that extends human life and also enhances your mental capabilities and gives you things like telekinesis and the ability of foresight. You can see the future. Leto, who is the main character's father, but we'll get there in a second, is aware that this assignment is a trap of some kind, but he cannot refuse it. Shaddam sees House Atreides as a rival among the other great houses in the Landsraad and conspires with House Harkonnen, who are, like you'll find out, the number one enemies of House Atreides. The long-standing enemies of House Atreides to destroy Leto once he arrives on Arrakis. Leto's concubine, Lady Jessica, is an acolyte of Bene Gesserit, an exclusively female group of, we'll say, witches, space witches, and they pursue mysterious political aims, and they wield physical powers that appear superhuman. Though Jessica, who is Paul's mother, Paul being the main character, has been instructed by Bene Gesserit to bear a daughter as part of their breeding program, out of love for Leto, she bore a son. Basically, she gets pregnant and decides that she's not going to abort the baby. Paul is trained... she bears a son, and his name is Paul. Paul is the main character of this story. Paul is trained in warfare by Leto, his father's aides, the Mentat assassin Thufir Hawat, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering the names, and elite soldiers Duncan Idaho and Gurney Halleck, who were played in the new movie by Jason Momoa and motherfucking Thanos, to prepare for their journey for Arrakis. Jessica also trained Paul in what Bene Gesserit disciplines she can, and his prophetic dreams interest Jessica's superior, the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohaim. Leto, Jessica, and Paul travel with their household to occupy the planet of Arrakis. It was formerly held by House Harkonnen, which is part of why we have that rivalry. And I believe one of the main characters who was played by Sting in the 1984 version is now being played by Bautista. So Leto learns of the dangers involved in harvesting spice, which is protected by giant sandworms. And he ends up negotiating with the planet's native Fremen people, seeing them as a valuable ally rather than foes. So basically, you're people that they're the natives of Arrakis, and in coming there, even though he was handed the planet by like basically the higher up, the supreme leader of their galaxy, he feels like somewhat humbled in the sense that they've already been there. It'd be better off if I made friends with these people as opposed to them becoming my enemies. So the Harkonnen forces, joined by the Emperor's ferocious Saro Dukar, remember the Emperor is the one who sent him there, troops in disguise, attack the Atreides. Leo is betrayed by his personal physician, Suk Dr. Wellington Yu, who, if you remember, and once again, shout out to my trailer breakdown video, I mentioned the doctor, who was played by the Asian actor in the trailer, is going to be the one who betrays them. And you actually see a clip of him leading those forces, Emperor's Sara Daukar troops in disguise. And he ends up delivering a drugged Leto, who was Paul's father, to Baron Vladimir Harkonnen and his twisted Mentat Pitar de Vries. Yue, Dr. Yue, however, arranges for Jessica and Paul to escape into the desert because obviously he feels guilty for doing the shit in the first place, and they are presumed dead by the Harkonnens. But Yue replaces one of Leto's teeth with a poison capsule, hoping Leto can kill the Baron during their encounter. So basically he pulls out one of Leto's teeth and puts in this poison capsule, even because he knows he's going to be captured by the Duke. So in doing so, once he's face to face with the Duke, he could, in the 1984 movie, and like I said, I feel like I need to keep reminding just in case someone forgets or you're just tuning into my channel. I'm not familiar that much with Duke, but I remember in the with Dune. But I remember the 1984 movie, how this happens is basically this gaseous cap. So he clicks down on his tooth when he's face to face with the Duke, and it like releases this poison gas, but it doesn't end up killing him. Instead, I think something happens where he grabs Yue and throws him in front of it or something like that. Let me know down in the comment section. Now, we've pretty much got a lot of the plot already down. What I do want to do is discuss melange, aka spice, which is the ingredient, the herb, if you will. It's a drug that gives a lot of our characters who use it, for long terms anyway, the blue glazed over eyes, but also the superhuman abilities and the telekinetic abilities, extending their life far past what normal humans live, and also giving them the ability of foresight. I think that's super important. And as I mentioned before earlier in this video, Lady Jessica, Paul's mother, when he was young, gave him, I believe it was some sort of experiments with the drug. So he has some sort of influence with it, and he has these prophetic dreams in his training and preparation for when they arrive on the planet Arrakis. So melange is basically, it's mostly referred to as spice, and it's the name of a drug in the Dune series, obviously. It's the most essential and valuable commodity in the universe, in the Dune universe, and like I compared to in my trailer breakdown video, it's a lot like gasoline in some aspects, and since that war and shit is caused over oil. So a drug that gives a user, or is known to give a user, longer lifespan, greater vitality, and heightened awareness. It can also unlock pre-science in some humans. So that's another thing to be of note. Melange affects certain users differently. It doesn't affect everyone the same way. In like any drug, it can obviously be abused and have negative side effects. Depending upon the dosage in the consumer's physiology is basically how it's going to affect the user. The pre-science enhancing property makes safe and accurate interstellar travel possible. Which I've mentioned before, that's another use of this drug, is that these super advanced spaceships, which are, you'll learn in the movie, they're supposed to be considered low tech. The only way to use these spacecrafts is by using melange. And I think after Leto, Paul, and Lady Jessica are attacked by the Harkonnens, Paul has to fly a ship that he's not very familiar with, and I think we see a clip of that in the trailer. And he has to that's like his first experience flying one of those vehicles, I think, that requires melange use. Melange is known to come with a steep price, and it's addictive. And withdrawal from it is pretty fatal. Harvesting melange is also extremely hazardous, and the only known source is the harsh desert planet Arrakis, or Dune. And melange, like massive amounts of it, basically the how they harvest it, it's guarded by the massive sandworms. And I think there's pretty much only one source of Dune, and that is the sands of the planet Arrakis. It's also known as Dune, just in case you see why I keep interchanging them. And basically, in Dune, there is a pre-spice mass. The stage of fungusoid wild growth achieved when water, which is super important on this desert planet, because obviously that harsh environment means that you need to stay hydrated, my dude. And it's really badass in the 84 version. They would say one of their ways of having like a badass line would be like, "I'll spill your water," or I'll open your water, basically. Like, taken out of context sounds corny as fuck, but the way these characters did it in the movie was pretty awesome. So basically the way to get it is by when water is flooded into the poo-pee of the little makers, and the half plant, half animal deep sand vector of the Arrakis sandworm. So it's sandworm poop mixed with water. So they basically drown the sandworms to make this. Gases are produced which result in a characteristic blow, exchanging from the material deep underground for the matter on the surface above it. The blow is explosive in nature, erupting with enough force to kill anyone who is in the vicinity of it. And this is probably something they will touch on in the first movie, but we may not get it full out explained. But the author describes the spice blow in this following passage from Dune, in which I'm about to read. Heard the sand rumbling. Every Fremen knew the sound, could distinguish it immediately from the noises of worms or other desert life. Somewhere beneath him, the pre-spice mass has accumulated enough water and organic matter from the little makers. Had reached the critical stage of wild growth. A gigantic bubble of carbon dioxide was forming deep in the sand, heavy upwards, an enormous blow with a dust whirlpool at its center. It would exchange what had been formed deep in the sand for whatever lay on the surface. No matter what liberties they take in this story, and I think Denis Villeneuve is pretty faithful to the book series, but no matter what free liberties they take with this story, it's so fresh and so new to a lot of people. Obviously, it has a massive following. It's the greatest sci-fi novel of all time, but I'm talking about most of the people that are going to pay and go and watch this movie in the theater that have never seen it before. Basically, the same thing referenced to Game of Thrones, the average show watcher. This world is going to be so fresh and so new. We're going to get more than just a sequel to this movie. There's probably going to be a bunch more coming, and I think Frank Herbert's son is continuing this story, and there's something known as like the Children of Dune, which is like one of those sci-fi movies. I'll try to link that below and pinned comment so you can go check out clips from it, or maybe find some sort of way to watch it. Alright, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you could please slap a like on this video. The like goal is going to be, like I mentioned, 420. Super special shout out to every single member of my Patreon family, and a super special thank you again to every single person watching this video. My name's Mark, and this has been my Dune videos. Sir Hunt's Reviews.